Piss off your parents. Logan stood in front of the bar Virgil was supposed to perform at the night. He'd messed up. He'd messed up in a big way, and he hadn't even realized it until it was already too late. Virgil would never want to see him again. But he had to explain it to him. He had to tell him that it wasn't what he thought it was. He was right to be mad with him, of course. He'd been deceitful and hurt him deeply in the process. It had been 6 months ago when he'd made the best and worst decision of his life. As a fresh graduate from college, he'd accepted his parents' offer to run the flower shop for a while to get some work experience to put on his resumes. It would also help out his parents, who'd quite frankly been overworking themselves. He loved his parents, just to be clear, but living with them again after 4 years of living on his own had quickly made him realize how involved they tended to get with his life. They meant well, but everything about him was subjected to their opinion, and he didn't wish to upset them. He never had, not even as a teenager when one is supposed to go through a rebellious phase. Logan wanted to have that rebellion now, though. Do something his parents wouldn't approve of. Something potentially ill-informed. On top of that, he and his friend Patton had given each other a bucket list at graduation. Some things they thought would benefit the other in their first year and as well-educated adults. But they knew their friend might not get around to on their own. Most of Patton's challenges seemed easy enough, but one was quite ambiguous. Take a risk. It was exactly what Logan was craving, as it so happened. And just as he'd been thinking about that, he'd walked in. Virgil, headphones in, still dressed in an oversized band shirt and hoodie like he had been the last time he saw him. Piercings decorated his ears, upper lip, and right nostril. Logan thought he even saw some ink on his wrists and collarbone. He'd walked up to him with a smirk and asked for a floral arrangement for his mother. Apparently, Virgil had only just gotten back in town after finishing his own education and was going to bring his parents some flowers and wine as a thank you for getting to crash at their place until he found living arrangements of his own with a friend. Logan and Virgil had both been in high school together. Virgil had always seemed distant, sometimes even aggressive, and Logan had elected to stay out of the way. He was much more laid back now. Less intimidating, but no less enticing. He'd always been attractive. Logan put together the flower bouquet, following Virgil's instructions. He'd put some thought into this, clearly, and when he rang him up, he took the plunge. Do you mind catching up over coffee sometime this week? He asked. Virgil had been taken aback, rendered completely silent for a few moments before he got that easygoing smile again. You, Galaxy Brain Gabriels, want to catch up with me? I thought you and your buddy thought I'd eat you if you locked eyes with me back in the day, he teased. You didn't seem too keen on company at the time, and we chose to respect that, Logan pointed out. You don't seem opposed to friendly interactions anymore, and I have never been capable of leaving a mystery unexplored, he stated. All true, but it still felt like a lie. Virgil laughed, a deep, attractive sound. A mystery, huh? Okay. See you at Remy's on Monday? That's you guys' closing day, right? He verified. Logan nodded. Indeed. I will meet you at 4. Virgil nodded and paid before leaving with a salute. Logan had a plan for that meeting. They'd flirt and maybe fool around a bit in the storage room of the shop afterwards, and it would never be mentioned again. Virgil had quite a few casual hookups over the course of their final year. His type seemed to center around people like Logan, those who normally wouldn't interact with him, which in Virgil's case was most of the school. Cheerleaders, jocks, theater kids, chess club members, anyone who wanted a taste of danger had gotten a taste of Virgil Lager. And now, if Virgil's preferences hadn't changed too much, Logan might get to experience that himself. Logan worked the shop like a good son for the rest of the week. And then, on his day off, after he finished his administration, he got dressed, told his parents he was meeting up with an old school friend, and headed to Remy's. It was a cafe not too far from their old high school, a popular spot for students to spend some time after classes ended. When Logan arrived, Virgil was already sitting in a booth, eyes focused on a notebook, drumming a pencil against the edge of the table. Logan took a seat curiously. Virgil looked up and smiled, putting his notebook away. Right on time. Not that I expected anything less. I don't think you had a single tardy all of high school, he recalled. That would be correct, Logan nodded. They placed their orders, and once the server left, Virgil leaned forward. So, working the family business, huh? I figured you'd be an astronomer or something. You always got pretty stoked about the stars and stuff, he recalled. Logan was surprised. I do have a fascination with the stars, he admitted. I'm getting work experience at the moment while waiting for a good job opportunity. I got a major in biochemistry and a minor in astronomy. Very different fields, I am aware. I completed a teacher trainees course as well. So if I don't get a job in my chosen field of study, I can pass on my knowledge instead, he explained. Virgil smiled in a way Logan couldn't quite place. That's cool, he simply said, in a surprising soft tone. Thank you. How about you? What have you been up to the past 4 years? Logan asked. It seemed only polite to engage in some small talk before making his proposition. He wasn't quite sure how to properly phrase it. He tended to come across quite rude in more delicate social situations. Patton understood how he worked by now. Others had a harder time with his bluntness. I got my degree in psychology. I'm starting up a practice with Emil. He's taking the apartment that goes with our office, so me and David Pride Pursing Eyes are looking for a place to share. Red King and Jay actually guilted me into going on a road trip with them after graduation to make up for not rooming with them. I shared a dormitory with those two. Love them, but never again. Virgil chuckled. Logan figured that Jay referred to Janice Drake, their school council student representative 4 years in a row. Jay does law and political science. Of course, Virgil elaborated. Yes, that sounded like Drake. Thinking back, Logan did see him and Virgil together a few times. He didn't know they were that close. Then again, he hadn't really paid attention to Virgil's social life, or anything at school outside of what directly affected him and Patton. He only really knew about Virgil's dating habits because someone on his debate team had talked about pursuing Virgil and being successful. Remus, believe it or not, is on his way to become a forensic pathologist, he added. Remus, no doubt Remus Bellow, most known for being called to the principal's office at least once a week. That is quite surprising, Logan admitted. Oh, he was quite eager to learn its material and tell us all the juicy details, Virgil muttered. How's your buddy doing? The cute guy. Patton, right? Virgil asked. Veterinarian, despite his cat allergies, Logan said. Oh, that's good for him, Virgil smiled. You two were kind of joined at the hip, right? He continued. I didn't realize we were of such interest to you, Logan pointed out, genuinely curious. Virgil leaned back, his body language and facial expression suggesting he was feeling embarrassed. Let's just say I tended to pay some attention to people I find sexy, he muttered. Logan frowned as he tried to dissect that statement. Patton was a handsome man, but he was not sexy. That meant that Virgil thought. Logan felt his cheeks flush. "Hmm," he stated, as their drinks arrived. When the waiter left them again, Logan decided that now would be the best time to take the next step. Well, I must say I found you rather attractive as well, he stated. Still do, if I am honest. There. Now they had both admitted attraction to one another. There was a nervousness settling in his stomach as he realized that this plan might actually work out as intended. Virgil was quiet for a moment as he sipped his drink. Then his posture relaxed. Need to be somewhere today? He wondered. Logan shook his head. I have to let my parents know if it'll get late, but oh, it'll get late, at least, depending on your answer, Virgil assured him. Answer on what? Logan asked. suddenly very nervous. Was Virgil planning? Virgil leaned forward with a conspiratory look on his face. Want to go on a date with me? He asked softly. He hadn't expected that. He could understand that Virgil had outgrown making out in the locker room. Part of him even appreciated the idea of building tension over the course of the evening. Patton told him to take a risk. This felt like a risk. On a date with Virgil. He seemed nice, charming even, but he wasn't out to anyone except Patton. And all he wanted was one evening of fooling around, rebelling without too big a chance of actual repercussions. I. He looked around nervously. Virgil nodded in understanding. No one knows, huh? He concluded. Patton? But yeah, no one knows. Logan nodded. I made up a girlfriend for a few weeks in my first year of college. Claimed that the relationship failed because I couldn't combine it with classes. They didn't ask questions after that, he recalled, being far more honest than he expected to be. That's okay. Is that the only reason to say no? Virgil pressed gently. Logan felt his stomach was being squeezed in an unpleasant way. He dismissed the feeling as nerves, though, and nodded. Totally valid. But what if I promise no one will find out? I won't even tell my own friends, he promised. Logan couldn't deny that he was quite curious to find out what Virgil had in mind. How else he differed from the impression he got from him back in school. I don't know. You just told me that you have two friends who can help you plan the perfect crime, he pointed out. Virgil let out a careless laugh. Well, I guess that's a fair point. But if you decide to show up, he took a folded piece of paper and slid it over. You come to this place in 1 hour to solve that mystery. He winked before getting up and dropping some cash on the table and leaving after finishing his drink. Once he was gone, Logan picked up the note and read it. It was a cryptic message. Where stars walk the earth only to collide, there is a spot where lovers try to hide. The bleachers at the football field. Logan paid for their drinks and headed home. Just in case Virgil didn't invite him to that spot to do what their peers usually used it for, he had an idea to make the storage room of the flower shop a little more inviting. He told his parents that plans changed and he'd be out the whole evening. They had a lot of questions, and Logan said that he simply wanted to spend more time with his old friend. When he got to the agreed upon spot, he found another note. And now he got excited. A scavenger hunt. Virgil must have planned this from the start. He'd come to that cafe hoping for a date. With him? Now he was a bit confused, but he took the note and read. Where minds shine bright in a silent maze, find my songs, it was never a face. Library, music section. He'd find something with Virgil's favorite band, no doubt. A scavenger hunt to know Virgil more. That was a lovely idea, and it had little risk of exposure. Logan learned that Virgil's favorite band was Evanescence. He liked lavender. He was a Disney fan, saw Avatar, and seemed to consider himself a waterbender. He knew Harry Potter, but gave no indication of what house he affiliated with most. And finally, he found him in a hidden meadow in the park on a picnic blanket with pizza. Hi, want some? He smirked. Logan had laughed and sat down. That that was fun, he admitted. Glad you liked it, Virgil said. They talked some more about the series they enjoyed and debated some conspiracy theories. He learned that Virgil liked to sing on the weekends on open mics and the like. He occasionally even got a paid gig. Soon Virgil said it was time for Logan to go home. Want me to walk you? He asked carefully. Logan was brought back from his little bubble and remembered his own preparation and its purpose. Actually, would you walk me to the shop? I got a surprise for you too, he said. Virgil's eyes glistened curiously. He didn't ask to elaborate though, bringing Logan to the shop where Logan led him into the storage room and flipped the switch, turning on the fairy lights he'd installed in the rearranged storage room. Wow, it's like a garden in a fairy tale. Save for that desk, he pointed out. Logan shrugged. But you like it? he verified. Virgil nodded. I'm kind of impressed. Though one must wonder, why decorate your storage room like that unless you plan for us to be here for a bit longer? He pressed. My parents moved to a different house. My dad can't do the stairs anymore due to his leg. So we have quite some privacy here. Logan elaborated, a little flustered. Did you bring me here to seduce me? Virgil teased slowly. I suppose that is a word that could be used to describe my intentions, he admitted. Virgil chuckled. You suck at seducing, he informed him before laying a hand on his face and turning him, walking him back until he was stuck between the desk and Virgil's body. But, lucky for you, I'm already sold, he said softly. Just need to know. Is this. Logan nodded breathlessly. I've never pursued anyone I had interest in before, he admitted. Virgil laid his free hand against Logan's cheek, and Logan felt his breath hitch. This was far more nerve-wracking than he expected. Then I'll be sure to make this memorable, Virgil promised. And then Virgil was kissing him. It was a surprising sensation. Logan had expected a physical reaction of some sort, but this felt like taking a sip of water and realizing you were in dire need of a drink, like eating and realizing you are starved for food. Kissing Virgil was filling a need he didn't realize he'd been neglecting, and quickly realized he needed far more of. Virgil had smiled into him at his eagerness. They kissed for a long time before Virgil called back. Gotta save some for the second date, if you want. Logan had nodded without hesitation. He didn't mind doing this a second time. It had been exciting and fulfilling and fun. It was well worth the risk. He hadn't realized, stupidly, that Virgil wasn't just having fun. And not until months later did he realize that he wanted more than just fun as well. But surely Virgil would grow bored of him soon. He had far more friends than Logan expected. He hadn't been able to match all the nicknames to faces, but clearly he'd had a big support group back in high school. And he was handsome and charming and could have anyone he fancied. He'd realize that soon, and then it would be over, because he didn't think that Virgil was really interested in him. Until one night, their date had ended the same as all had, in the storage room. Tonight, Virgil sat on the desk and Logan was taking lead. They'd had a great night, and Logan was once again hit with the realization that this would end soon. He was a little more eager because of that. And that was when Virgil stopped him. Starlight, hold on. Gotta cool down, he said. Why? Logan had complained, craving his Virgil's closeness. Because, well, I've been thinking, and I don't want to push you, but Logan, we've been doing this for 6 months, and I get if you don't feel safe being out, but I would like to at least be able to tell our friends. Me and Ro have gotten a good space now, and I know he would give us the room if we needed it. It would be nice, don't you think? Not hiding all the time. Just, I want to be honest with my friends. Princey already has his suspicions, and it's getting so hard to deny it. I'm sure Patton has noticed too. He's your best friend after all. Would it be okay? If we told them at least? Logan was confused. Tell them what? He'd asked. Virgil let out a laugh. But it hadn't been right. You, about us? I mean, we've been, the past 6 months, at least I thought. That was when Logan finally realized. Virgil, all this time, had genuinely liked him. You, you have romantic feelings for me, he realized out loud. And he knew how this would sound. He was still stunned when he was violently pushed to the ground and Virgil jumped off the desk to pick up his things. I'm so stupid. Of course you never. You just like in high school. All I'm good for is to piss off someone's parents, he ranted, tears in his voice, and Logan felt like every word was a knife slicing through something intangible in his core. He suddenly understood people believing in a soul. This felt like Virgil's words were cutting into his very soul. He was right and wrong, and Logan couldn't bring himself to talk. Hope it was fun, but I won't be doing an encore, Virgil declared before storming out. And then Logan curled up into a ball and cried. He cried until he grabbed his phone and called Patton. He needed his advice. Patton listened to the entire story and was, understandably, disappointed. But he also told Logan what he should do to fix it. Virgil deserved to know the whole truth. Logan was too much of a coward to go to Virgil's apartment, though. He didn't want to run into the roommate Virgil had referred to as BFG amongst many hero and royalty related nicknames, and occasionally Go. Apparently, he'd been his best friend since elementary or something, and Logan had been too embarrassed to ask who exactly Virgil referred to. He felt he should have noticed who his best friend was back in school, considering how much Virgil had noticed about him. One thing was for sure. This roommate was big and strong and protective of Virgil. Logan would be jealous if Virgil hadn't mentioned he was our ace, though he never had a right to be jealous in the first place, and certainly not now. In any regard, he doubted he'd get past that bodyguard. So like a coward, he decided to try and catch Virgil in his gig of that weekend, hoping to get a moment with him after he got off stage. He was relieved to see Virgil hadn't called off the gig, but seeing him on that stage, looking tired and angry with the world, that stung, because he knew he was responsible for that look in his face. And then Roman Bello joined him on the stage. Roman was built like a jug, Remus's twin brother, and only now did Logan realize that he was in fact the best friend Virgil had mentioned over the past 6 months. The set consisted almost exclusively out of angry songs about rejection and heartbreak. Virgil apologized for the set and explained he'd had a shitty week and he was making it everyone's problem. Apparently his audience did not mind. Logan wished he'd come to see any of the sets Virgil had invited him to in the past. He should have come. He'd been such a, a dickhead. How had Virgil put up with him so long? He'd had the most patient partner in the world, and he'd hurt him. They closed off the set with a song that was literally about a boy who knew a girl was just using him to upset her parents. Roman and Virgil did great. Logan was just constantly consumed by guilt and could not fully appreciate it. After what strangely felt like both an eternity and a second at the same time, Virgil ended the set and got off stage with Roman. Logan hurried over and managed to follow them to the back. Virgil, he called out desperately to get his attention. Virgil froze, and that was all Roman needed. Logan was slammed against the wall, and he instinctively raised his hands in surrender. Roman! Virgil called in shock. You are the reason he's been like this all week! The thespian growled. Logan swallowed and nodded. Yes, he's right to be upset with me. He deserves to know the whole truth. I'll leave him alone after that, but I don't want him to be left with questions. I know him well enough to know that that is bad for his mental well-being. I won't even ask you to leave. You can throw me out the moment you think I'm worsening the situation, he swore. Roman glared at him for a moment and then let go. He took a step back. You go ahead, he growled. Logan slowly turned to look at Virgil. You have no reason to hear me out, or to forgive me, but I want you to know. It started out the way you think it went. I wanted to rebel, take a risk while I could still afford them. You came in and it seemed perfect. I was very singularly focused on what I expected to happen, and I did not see the signs of your genuine affection for me. I should have. And when you suggested a second date, I agreed, despite only planning for that one day initially. I liked being with you. It took me 2 months to realize what that meant. And not until last week did I realize that you wanted more out of the relationship than I was giving. I thought the arrangement suited you. I was self-centered and did not even try to gauge where you stood. I assumed you would grow bored of me, and I did not blame you for that. I assumed you and I were on the same page this whole time. I did not think to verify because I did not want to confirm being right. When I realized that this whole time you considered our relationship to be romantic in nature, I was I was overwhelmed. But that is no excuse for how I hurt you. I Shut up and kiss me, Virgil sobbed. Logan blinked. He'd had more to say, a lot more. He'd been rambling, if he was honest, but still. But Virgil wanted him to. What? He asked. You heard the man. I'll give you the hall, the woman grumbled, still not a fan of Logan. Clearly. Logan was completely shocked. And then he was being hugged. You are such an idiot. But I know you struggle with the emotional side of things. I was angry because I have some issues I still need to work through myself. I should have given you a chance to explain yourself, but I was not in the headspace to listen, Virgil explained, tears still flowing. Logan, I. Logan pulled back and looked at him. There was a lot of talking to be done, between the two of them and with their friends and family. But for now, shut up and kiss me, he whispered. Kissing Virgil was like coming home after a long journey.